Welcome to the first installment of our podcast on private land easement opportunities in Sherburne County. Today, we're going to be talking about different ways that you can protect private lands and restore native habitat and even wetlands. So I'm going to hand it off to Kevin to do the first introduction.
Thanks, Miranda. My name is Kevin Roth. I work for the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources, more commonly known in our circle, at least, as Bowser. So you might hear that term used out and about. That is the Board of Water and Soil Resources. Easiest way to explain what we do is probably, we're kind of like DNR, but we do private lands conservation versus public lands. So for the landowners out there in Sherburne County, that's going to be his easiest way to put it what Bowser does. My title is a easement programs coordinator. So I work on our easement programs, obviously. We manage easement funding sources, program design, and program eligibility. I've been working with private landowners on easement programs for over 10 years now. I started my career in Southwest Minnesota in Nobles County, and then also worked in Stearns County. Took a couple years off from easements when I joined Bowser, but now I'm back doing those. So yeah, that's kind of me and a general overview of what Bowser is and what my position is.
Thanks, Kevin. Carly, can you explain and introduce yourself, and what is the Minnesota Land Trust?
Absolutely. So my name is Carly Aulicky. I'm a conservation program manager for the Minnesota Land Trust, which means, just like you heard from Kevin, I'm helping landowners through the conservation easement process. Minnesota Land Trust, however, is a nonprofit organization, so we function a little bit differently than Bowser does, but we're still focused on conserving private lands. In regards to my background, I've been working in conservation easement programs for 3 years and natural resources more broadly for about 10.
Great. How about you, Grayson?
Sure. I'm Grayson Smith. I'm a private lands wildlife biologist. I work in the Partners for Fish and Wildlife program, which is a program within the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I'll refer to my program henceforth as Partners, just to shorten it up. I've been doing this work for about 2.5 years in the Partners program. I serve Sherburne, Iceni, Chisago, Anoka, Washington, and Ramsey counties. But we do have a Partners biologist in the Partners program in every county in Minnesota, as well as every state and in the U.S., as well as our territories. And basically, in my program, we work on private lands habitat restoration and improvement under a 10-year landowner agreement.
Thanks, Grayson. And in our last and final podcast for the season will be a follow-up to this, and Grayson will talk about a successful easement that has been done in Sherburne County. So I'm going to put Carly on the spot. Can you talk a little bit more about what kind of land is eligible for your program? And when you're looking at a piece of land, what are the components that you're desiring to make a good easement?
And that's an excellent question, and I'm glad you brought it up. So when I'm looking for conservation easement prospects, and this is true for the Minnesota Land Trust broadly, we're focused on protecting natural systems in the state, whether that's prairies or woodlands, fens, you name it, with the greatest conservation benefits. So we're looking to protect corridors, we're looking to protect complexes. Larger parcels are fabulous, but then again, sometimes size isn't the most important thing, it's context. So please always reach out if you have natural habitat and you would like to see it conserved.
Does there have to be restorability on your easements, Carly?
So if you do have ag lands that you would like to sunset that are not in a working lands program, so you're not grazing for wildlife benefit or you're not sustainably harvesting, That's something that we would typically exclude from our easements or shift towards restoration. So we're actually incredibly fortunate that we have a dedicated restoration team at the Minnesota Land Trust that will come in and help with that restoration process. And we're also incredibly fortunate because we have a really great relationship with Fish and Wildlife Service and actually work very closely with Grayson on a lot of stuff as well.
And Carly, is there a deed restriction or a long-term deed filing that goes with an easement?
Yes, so all of Minnesota land trust easements are perpetual, so it's a forever easement.
Okay, thank you. And Grayson, she's already mentioned that you guys work really, really well together. So can you explain how you have your own program, but also how you piggyback off of not just Minnesota Land Trust, but other opportunities?
Sure, yeah. Minnesota Land Trust is one of our biggest partners, one of our closest partners that we work hand in hand with. I mean, I think it goes without saying that restoring or improving habitat, native habitat on perpetually protected land is kind of like the ultimate as far as restorations go. But typically, I work very closely with the habitat restoration team as well, and they will kind of funnel their either properties that are already perpetually protected or properties they're considering for perpetual protection to us, to me, the private lands biologist. And I'll go out and do a survey and look for restoration potential and kind of bring that back to the Minnesota Land Trust and say, this is what I think is possible out here. And then if it's a yay, then we'll move forward and actually complete those restorations on the property.
And your program standalone isn't necessarily an easement. It is more of financial and technical assistance to do a restoration.
That's correct. So yeah, we offer free financial and technical assistance to private landowners, managers, tribes, corporations, schools, and nonprofits interested in improving wildlife habitat on their land. We do each completed project is put under a 10-year landowner agreement, which basically states we're going to help you achieve your and our goals on your land as far as habitat improvement or restoration goes. Please don't destroy it for 10 years. Please manage it.
And now, Kevin, can you explain a little bit about what Bowser has to offer for your easement programs?
Yeah, well, we could almost do a full-length podcast just for Bowser easements. We have all sorts of programs now covering full gamut of different landscapes. A lot of what you heard from Carly is going to be similar to our restoration goals. General Minnesota Land Trust probably has a little more flexibility on fitting the easement to the landowner. We have larger statewide programs for the most part, some area-specific programs. But again, with all of our programs, we're focusing on water quality and wildlife habitat benefits. Those are the main goals. And all of them are going to have benefits to both of those on each easement, but just a matter of which program we're looking at for the overarching main goal. In general, we have two different types of easements, one being a restoration easement where we're looking at predominantly land that is either currently in cropland or previously has been. It might be in CRP, so it has cropping history. Those are restoration type easements. Those would receive RIM payment rates, which are based on land values, the assessed land values on a township to township basis statewide. And then the other type of program would be a RIM protection easement where we're looking at predominantly non-cropland stuff without crop history, located in areas where we're looking to protect sensitive landscapes. Might be Wild Rice Lake, it might be the Rum River shoreline, it might be Mississippi River shoreline, things like that.
Before you go on, can you explain what RIM is, what that acronym is?
RIM, Reinvest in Minnesota, is the acronym, and that is our main easement program. We also have a CREP program, Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, which is a partnership with the federal government, but not available in Sherburne County.
Yeah, that one's a tricky one for us. So Kevin, are most of your easements a long-term recorded with the deed?
Yeah, we're looking at, for the most part, a perpetual easement. We do have in our riparian and floodplain restoration program, we do have limited 30-year term options now, and as well as working lands option in that program. So that's something we haven't done in a long time, but we're kind of exploring that avenue again as the limited term 30-year easement. That's the only program that has it right now.
And does Bowser have a current priority for size of projects or types of projects right now that they're really trying to push forward?
Scoring and ranking is going to reflect the size of projects. Just like Carly said, you know, the bigger the better, the more habitat benefit you're going to get, and the higher things are going to score in general, the more acres in the program, and then the connectivity to other adjacent permanently protected habitats. But yeah, nothing specific. I think depending on the program, average size easement is probably around 40 acres.
Okay. And so,
Minimum being 8.
okay.
So we do take some smaller easements.
Carly, do you have a minimum that the Minnesota Land Trust will look at?
Nothing that's so set in stone. It's really context dependent because we also actively protect outdoor engagement opportunities too as a function of our mission. So that flexes a little bit. Typically, we're looking at 30 acres is a desirable starting size, but again, it depends.
Okay. And Grayson, you can come in on smaller projects, and it may not be part of a larger easement, but you could come in on a smaller acreage and at least get restoration, technical, and financial assistance, possibly.
You nailed it. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Even if can't say do that project, we can always offer technical assistance and guidance to the landowner to achieve their goals on their property. And I do want to just make mention that even though we partner very closely with Minnesota Land Trust to do habitat restoration on their easements, the majority of the projects that I do are not on perpetually protected land. It's just a private landowner, and then when we do the project, it's a 10-year agreement.
Great. And Kevin, you already kind of started leaning into this, but not all programs are necessarily available in Sherburne County. There are many priority areas based on habitat, soils, existing habitat that can either include or exclude entire counties. Um, Kevin, can you talk more about what Bowser has included for Sherburne County?
Yeah, just quick overview of the different programs available in Sherburne County. First one is our RIM Riparian and Floodplain Restoration Program. This one is specifically targeting cropland acres within mapped floodplain areas. So again, we kind of touched on this. This is either a perpetual 30-year limited term easement, or can also have a working lands component. Some areas in Sherburne County that might be conducive to easements like this would be like along the St. Francis River, Mayhew Creek, Elk River, the Rum River, the West Branch of the Rum, and then Estes Brook. We also have our statewide RIM Wetlands program. So this program puts an emphasis on restoration of non-floodplain depressional wetland restorations. Not sure how much wetlands are to be restored in Sherburne that aren't already done by Grayson, but no, it's a good program. That's kind of how RIM started, was with our RIM Wetlands program, and that is available statewide. A newer program that's going to be coming to Sherburne County is our RIM One Watershed One Plan program. So this program is available in areas where you have an approved comprehensive watershed management plan. So in Sherburne County, for the most part, that's going to be the Mississippi River St. Cloud, and you guys are getting close to wrapping that up. These plans identify priority subwatersheds, and that pretty much triggers you to be available to a RIM program in that area. With this program, we can do restoration easements, again, focusing on cropland restoration, CRP protection, or we can do protection easements. So if it's in a high priority area of your local plan for Sherburne County, that opens up a lot of doors. So a new opportunity coming. Miranda, maybe you have a better idea of when that plan's going to be approved, but we're getting close.
Yeah, in my head, Kevin, I'm thinking, ugh, yeah. So we have the Rum River, and we are using that as a functioning plan, and we're more than a year into that and implementing practices. For the Mississippi River St. Cloud, the draft plan is out. So we're hoping to start working on that plan in 2025. And we have identified protecting lands and easements as a high priority, not just for habitat, but also for water quality and quantity, and honestly, the aesthetic value and definitely soil health value. And when you joke about how many wetlands are left, we tend to forget that we have them in Sherburne County. Grayson is running around doing the best that he can, getting all of them restored. However, many of the areas that were drained in Sherburne County now have cities sitting on top of them. So a lot of our wetter, heavier soils actually are sitting underneath, Elk River, for example. But there's still opportunity out there, and I'm sure Grayson you seem to be very busy working with landowners and finding opportunities. In general, Grayson, what do you have available? Does someone call you? Do they just call you out of the blue? You do a site visit, you can come up with a plan, and then I know you work with the SWCD, you work with Minnesota Land Trust, just trying to find different funding pools. I assume you also work with Xerxes for doing high quality wildlife mixes. Is that the normal process for getting you out there? Just a phone call?
Yeah. Projects come to me all kinds of ways, any way you can imagine, including everything you just mentioned. Typically, I would say most of the people that I get in contact with are funneled to me from one of my partner organizations, like anyone here on this call. Someone calls in about something, it sounds like a partner's project, and then you send it to me and I make that contact and start that process. Another massive way, well, I'll just say there are other ways like doing outreach events, things like that. Another big way that we do find our projects is word of mouth. We do a restoration on neighbor A's property, and neighbor B goes, "Holy cow, who did that? How did you do that?" And then it spreads like that. So you'll kind of see these restorations kind of bloom out in an area, which is great because one of our big priorities is habitat connectivity and landscape scale conservation. So
yeah, it shows the importance of word of mouth, but also really good signage. You sign a project so that people know who to call, especially when it's not looking great in the early years, when you're still waiting for those seedings to really take off or that hydrology to be restored. It's good to have signage so people know what they're looking at. So Carly, do you want to talk a little bit about what a landowner needs to do for maintenance?
Sure.
What does that look like? So you have an easement, you've come out, maybe they've worked with Grayson, maybe they haven't. The restoration is done, and now they have a newly seeded wetland or prairie. How do they maintain it, and what do those agreements look like?
So typically for the Minnesota Land Trust, our process is to provide landowners with a habitat management plan. So they'll have everything laid out for them in terms of tools and opportunities and timing for maintenance, especially for things that have been restored. Their day-to-day management, we trust them to be on the ball and excited about their property. And typically anyone who comes to us is a very excited landowner. It's awesome. Um, Otherwise, on our end, landowners should expect annual visits from us and check-ins. And typically during that time, we help on site with things that we notice from a different standpoint and suggestions, and are always available to help them find resources for management too.
And how about you, Kevin? I believe there's definitely going to be a status review process and expectations for managing weeds, um, things that maybe wash out before you get good vegetation cover.
Yeah, so again, a lot of the same specifics Carly touched on. One important aspects is the land remains private land. With that, though, comes landowner's responsibility for management of the property. You also maintain allowable recreation rights. So, it's private land. It's not open to public hunting. But yeah, all the management long term is going to be up to the landowner, which can be, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot to maintain a property, as anybody with land already knows that. But keeping it in good quality condition and up to the standards where it's going to maintain the highest wildlife benefits is going to be a challenge, and it takes time and a little bit of money and some equipment usually. So that's just a point I like to make ahead of time for all landowners that are interested is, it's not just to sign it up and walk away. You can be more happy with the final product and the continuous product if you're willing to put the time and work in to maintain it long term. We don't have any requirements vegetation wise after establishment, but yeah, we do site inspections at least once every 3 years after establishment, and then other things like food plots are allowable on our easements. You can do some grazing as a management tool. Haying, burning, things like that are all allowable, but yeah, all up to the landowner to take care of that for the most part, unless we
And Kevin,
have enhancement funding available to do some of that. So.
And Kevin brought up a good point. All of these they remain private land. All of these programs, you still have your hunting rights. You can still utilize your property as long as you're not destroying the restoration or the protection. So we've heard that a lot over the years. Well, I don't want to do an easement because I don't want people hunting on it. You still have your property, it's still yours. And there's always a way to still enjoy your property. I haven't had a landowner that hasn't been able to work with either MLT or Bowser or even NRCS in ways that they can still enjoy their property and use it the way that they would like to. So we've talked about what's available in Sherburne County, the type of programs that you have, and the maintenance. So it seems like there might be a lot of paperwork involved with this, right? Uh, how do you walk people through the process, and how do you get them to commit to it? It's a big decision, and it's can be very, it's huge and it's unfamiliar. How do you talk people into easements? What's the biggest selling point? Carly, what's the biggest selling point?
Ultimately, for most landowners that do decide to make that leap, it is the knowledge and certainty that the place that they love is going to be protected into perpetuity. It doesn't matter who's next in the succession plan. It doesn't matter if they need to sell the land at some point. It's going to be protected forever, especially for landowners that have put in so much time and energy for things like restoration. That labor of love is then protected.
Yeah, and I feel like Grayson, in the next episode when we're talking to Renee, that's the kind of passion that she has for her property as well. And I'm sure, Kevin, you would echo that. That's why most folks go into easements.
Exactly. Really, that permanent legacy the landowners are looking to leave behind. Landowners work directly with the SWCD on our easements, so you don't get to work with me face to face as a landowner, but you get to work with Miranda. Maybe that's a good thing. But yeah,
oh, it's not going to be me. But you get to work with another wonderful SWCD staff member.
Exactly. So you do have that local contact, which I think is huge. You don't have to work with somebody from the state level, which is just important, in my opinion, to keep that local relationship. But yeah, as far as number one reasons, I think specifically just tied to Sherburne County and just some of the diverse landscape that you guys have there and some of the different pressures from urbanization. I think the permanent legacy really stands out for protection from development. We have some family with land in Sherburne County, 50 to 100 acre pieces. And, when they are no longer able to own that land and maybe they're looking to retire or downsize and have less maintenance, an easement might be a perfect opportunity for somebody like that, where they get to keep their land and the habitat that it is currently in, and really take a little bit of compensation, at least, away from the pressure of just parceling the land off and turning it all into a development, which is obviously has a lot of financial incentives as well. But the easement payments can help offset some of that while maintaining a habitat legacy long term.
Thank you. So let's end with your favorite type of restoration projects to work on. And I'm going to put you on the spot, Grayson, and have you go first. And it doesn't have to be recent, just what's one of your favorite projects?
This might sound corny, but my favorite kind of project to work on is one where the landowner is as excited about restoring or improving wildlife habitat as I am. And they're creative, they're excited, they're motivated, they're all in, and we work together so well. And it's just a joy and pleasure to do that project. And just to see how happy they are after the project's completed is like, it's the best thing. But other than that, like type of restoration, I would say probably wetland restorations are my favorite for a variety of reasons. But it's typically a quick turnaround. If I restore a wetland in the fall, it's only a few months until snow melts and the spring rains, and I see that basin full, and I get to see the biological response immediately. So yeah.
How about you, Kevin?
Grayson, you took the low-hanging fruit with the willing, excited landowner. I'll also make a point that can be super rewarding to work with the landowners. Maybe it was a little skeptical going in and just comes to you at the end and is like, wow, I wasn't totally certain on this, and things turned out really great, and had a really good experience working with the SWCD or Fish and Wildlife Service or MLT. There's a lot of those stories out there too, with landowners that I've worked with back when I was working at the local level. But yeah, again, to be more specific on the type of restoration that are super enjoyable for me, those wetland restorations, again, are super fun. Exactly. You get the wetland restored and boom, it fills up most of the time, unless maybe the last 3 years we've had some drought. Maybe it didn't fill up immediately, or it got dry right away again after snow melt. But one specific project that will always stick with me is probably once in a career project, and I was able to do work on it like in the first 2-3 years of my career. We restored an old lake bed in southwest Minnesota when I worked in Nobles County, 270 acre easement. So way above the average easement. This lake bed had been farmed for over 100 years. It was the top of the watershed. A county ditch, county tile system was draining it, and got it restored. And now it holds up to 4 feet of water in some spots. It's pretty amazing to see that go from, marginal agricultural land, landowners really had no interest in farming anymore, to really a wildlife mecca with ducks and pheasants and deer and you name it. It's pretty awesome.
That's amazing. How about you, Carly?
That is really cool. I will echo that. Personally, I'm going to go the opposite direction. I love a prairie restoration, but I also have a background working in grassland birds, and there can never be too much native grass, in my humble opinion. But speaking from an MLT perspective, our restoration team works statewide. Typically, the favorite restorations we like to target as an organization are the ones that are going to fill in some of those habitat gaps or help protect some of those riparian corridors. So they work in both wetlands and prairies pretty typically.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me today to talk about easements. And if you tune in for our last podcast of the series, we will be looking at a successful easement with Grayson and Haley from MLT, and my coworker David, and the landowner Renee, as they talk about an easement restoration project that was done in Sherburne County. So thank you all for joining me today.
Thanks, Miranda.
Thanks, Miranda.
Thank you so much for having me. And anyone who's interested, you can always check us out at mnland.org.
Yes, and I will have contact information for all three of you with different resources on the webpage. So take a look for that on either our website and our YouTube.